Welcome to the channel, guys. Today we are looking at this load carrier behind a Keystone trailer. So this does slide in and out. These are rated for 200 pounds. Now eventually you will realize a problem where this thing does not want to slide in or out, or it starts to lean in the back with some load. You will see these brackets bending here in the back. Very common issue I've seen on quite a few of these. And here's a problem that I've discovered and the way to solve it. So, looking at the underneath of the carrier here is basically just a square tube. But I notice this side I've already fixed. If we look at the other side here, the whole system is actually put on backwards. There's bearings on this end, as you can see. And whoever installed this at the factory or the dealership has installed the whole system backward. The bearing sitting here doing nothing. That's supposed to be on the other end, the back end of the system, to take the load and to make things slide in and out. So if we slide here backwards, they just have the carrier here. Again, I've had it pulled all the way back out of the tube here. That bearing is supposed to be on this end to take the load. So what happens essentially is this bracket, all this is here for is to lock the system into the holes as you pull it in and out, and your locking pin goes through here. But whoever put these on is putting them on backwards, and the whole load ends up being on these brackets, and they're not even all the way through. These brackets are just, again, just locking brackets. So the way they're putting them on, the load ends up being on these brackets, and these brackets are bending down, which is going to happen if you do it backwards. If you look at this side, I've had that side corrected already, and that's how they're supposed to be. The bearings are supposed to be in the back. To work on this system was to slide the whole system out, put a jack stand behind it to hold it. Your brackets here will hold the whole rack in place. So you can slide the whole thing back. You don't need to remove the whole thing. You can support the back with a jack stand while you're removing and putting the rails the way they're supposed to be. So to swap them, all you really need to do is there's 14mm bolts that holds it. There's two here, one on the outside, one on the inside in the back, and same thing here on the front. We'll loosen those up. We'll swap the whole thing, that end towards the back. We'll bolt it up in the same place and slide our load carrier into the tube. In the railing system here, there is a 19mm nut and bolt setup that stops the whole rail coming out of the whole system. Your bearing here will stop it once you have it correctly installed, being in the back. Now if you are trying to remove the whole system, you will have to remove this lock. So here I have off the left side tube, or the rail, whatever you want to call it, that this whole system slides into. You can see this is the position it was in. All we need to do is, that should be towards the back. That's where the bearing's at, or the rollers. So we got it loosened up. We'll go ahead, spin it around, mount it back in the same place. Again, 4 14mm nuts and bolts. Hold these on these brackets to the frame on the camper. We'll get this on and see how it works. Now you do want to lubricate this system while you're putting it together with your choice of lubricant, but I will recommend some stuff, and I'll put that in the description for you. So I was able to get this load carrier in the rear of this Keystone to slide in and out as it should. Now a few pointers. If you tend to use this system a lot and load it up quite a bit, I would suggest having a welder put in a little bit of a heavier duty or thick metal brackets in the back here. You could weld them on, cut these off, or weld another piece right to it just to thicken it up. Now that's the issue, is these brackets are too thin, and with weight they tend to bend, and that's the issue. Yeah, you can see that issue on both sides on these brackets here. But once the system is installed correctly, it does work. Again, the real way to fix it is get some heavier metal L brackets on here. That would solve all the leaning issues from weight. Once I swap those out, the issue that you'll run into from being used the wrong way, these brackets in the rear will be bent. I've used a wood block and a jack to straighten those out as best as I could. Now, before tightening your rails here in up front, works the best is to obviously put the system back together, slide it in and out, leave everything loose, putting these pins in where you want them to be, tighten up the rear first and then the front. That makes the system where it wants to be, so it can slide in and out how it should be. Now, Keystone could have made this easier by designing those rails and the brackets so they only fit one way. So I guess it's really not the fault of the person installing these, but it's easily fixable. But since the system gets used and put on wrong to begin with, a lot of stuff does get tweaked. Once you actually put it on the correct way, the system doesn't want to function correctly. You will have to bend and tweak certain things for it to work the way it was meant to be.